the Prabha Khaitan Foundation, it gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you to another session of Kitab and the launch of the book Hamid by Hamid Ansari and Geeta Mohan. Prabha Khaitan Foundation is dedicated to socio-cultural welfare and humanitarian causes. It is a non-profit trust founded by late Dr. Prabha Khaitan. Based in Kolkata, the foundation promotes performing arts, culture, and literature, and collaborates with caregivers, committed individuals, and like-minded institutions to implement cultural, educational, and literary and social welfare projects in India. The foundation supports the UNESCO view that cultural development has the potential to be an alternative way of promoting sustainable development. During this pandemic, in its endeavor to keep the morale of its patrons high, the Prabha Khaitan Foundation has transformed all its initiatives into virtual ones. Kitab is an initiative of the Prabha Khaitan Foundation, which does book launches in India and overseas. Hamid Ansari has a master's degree in management studies with a specialization in operations and supply chain management from Mumbai University. He has completed a second MBA in HR from NMIMS. Hamid has worked with NGOs like the Rotary Club and has been a volunteer with the UN. He is currently part of the visiting faculty at a junior college in Mumbai and is a motivational speaker who is working on becoming an entrepreneur. Geeta Mohan has been a journalist covering international relations and diplomacy. She is currently the Foreign Affairs editor in India Today, TV Today network. Apart from heading the desk, she also anchors the show World Today. Passionate about sharing real stories from the ground, she is widely recognized for her reporting. Other than the two authors, we have with us today some important personalities in the world of news and social activities. Rajdeep Sardesai, Nidhi Razdan, and Rukshanda Naz. Rajdeep Sardesai, an Indian news anchor, multimedia journalist and author. He's a consulting editor at the India Today group and is an anchor for India Today television. He was the editor-in-chief of Global Broadcast News that included CNN IBN, IBN 7, and IBN Lokmat. Rukshanda Naz has been in the Pakistan women's movement since the early 1990s. A lawyer by profession, she has worked with a number of NGOs on issues of violence against women and children and on women's empowerment programs. She has served one of the country's leading civil society organizations for women's rights, Aurat Foundation, as residential director from May 1993 to May 2008. Her last formal job was as head of UN Women Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa federally administered tribal areas division. Excuse me. Her quest for knowledge does not end with one degree, as she obtained her LLM from Coventry University. Moderating the discussion, we have Ms. Nidhi Razdan. Nidhi Razdan is an associate professor of journalism at Harvard University. Before that, she was the executive editor of NDTV. Nidhi reported on politics and international diplomacy and anchored NDTV's primetime show, Left, Right, and Center, and The Big Fight. I would now like to request Mr. Rajdeep Sardesai to formally launch the book and also request Ms. Rukshanda Naz and Ms. Nidhi Razdan and authors Hamid Ansari and Geeta Mohan to please join in.
Thank you very much. It's my great privilege, ladies and gentlemen, to be launching this wonderful book, Hamid Ansari with Geeta Mohan. I think it's a book which tells a compelling story, a story that bridges divides in a manner that is scarcely imaginable in the times in which we live. So it's a special honor to be able to do this. So congratulations to Hamid and Geeta, and also to my friend Jatin Desai, who's been a driving force, I know, in the entire exercise of getting Hamid back. And of course, Hamid's mother, Fauzia, who I think deserves all credit for what she's done. If you ever want to know the power of a mother, you have to meet Fauzia. And Rakshanda also deserves huge credit. So congratulations to all of you for bringing this book, and to Penguin for telling this story of Hamid. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I would like to request Ms. Nidhi Razdan to start the panel discussion.
Thank you very much, and it's really wonderful to be here today with the authors, with the other panelists to talk about this book, which really is both spine chilling in when you read about what Hamid went through when he crossed over into Pakistan for completely different reasons, ending up then in jail for 6 years. The kind of torture that he faced there before finally being reunited with his family. It's all very dramatic, and I'm not going to be surprised if it is made into a film one day, Geeta, but make sure the right person directs it. I don't want it to be a badly made film. But Hamid, let me begin by asking you, what made you decide that you wanted to put your story to a, into writing? There must be so much that's gone through your mind since your release. It's been a couple of years now. What made you decide to write it?
Actually, when I was behind bars, and to be precise, when I was in the solitary confinement, the amount of torture and the hatred that I was facing. So at one point, there was one person, Ataur Rahman, who was associated with my case, and even he was arrested. So the only mode of communication for us in the solitary confinement was to write on the bathroom walls to communicate. So that became a very nice thing that I said, that I thought that, okay, fine, this is a a mode of communication that using which I can communicate my message to everyone. And throughout the 6 years, the things that I have faced, it changed my perception also. I met very good people, and obviously there were negativities that I faced. So I wanted everyone to know that there are good things also and there are bad things, but it all depends on how we look at things and how we take it. So while I was in Peshawar prison, and Rakshanda madam used to come and meet me, so she also inspired me that you should start writing whatever you are facing and whatever your experience is. So it will be a good experience for others, and a good learning thing that the future generation or the new youngsters, they do not repeat the same mistake. So Rakshanda madam also motivated me, and once I came back, Geeta Mohan also told me that we should just pen down the entire experience. So it was like I had already decided, and then Geeta ji gave me a boost. So I thought, oh, fine, now I have to write about it. So that's how it all started.
Hamid, I read somewhere that you had said one of the lessons you learned from this time that you spent in prison in Pakistan, one of the lessons you learned was never to trust people that you never met, especially on the internet, on Facebook, etc. Because that's how your story began. That's how you landed up in Pakistan by meeting a woman online. So give us a brief summary of how this happened. How did you land up there, get arrested, and end up being accused of being a spy?
Okay, so it all started. First of all, I would like to clarify this thing that the entire thing did not start with Facebook. It started with an online platform on the mobile phone. It was called Nimbus. Now it does not exist. So using Nimbus, I found this person, Fiza, as mentioned in the book. This girl, she was from KPK, and like just normal communication, just a pen pal. So that's how we came to know each other. And one fine day, she's like, I do not have any other option but to commit suicide. So I want you to come and save me. So she did not disclose what all things were happening over there, what was the problem. And because of all this communication on a regular basis, I had a soft corner for her. So all these things, it all started on the social media platform, the Nimbus. And to find her whereabouts, like she suddenly disappeared. So that's when I started using Facebook to find out where she is. On Facebook, I found out this person named Ataur Rahman, who was a media guy, a journalist from Karak, which is like a 1 hour distance from Kohat, where the girl was. And he told me that a few months back, like I met Ataur Rahman in the month of May, and he told me that in the month of February, the girl's brother had committed a murder, and she is to be the scapegoat, like in the Wani custom, she will be given as compensation. So I trusted Ataur Rahman, and he told me that he'll be the ground support and he'll be providing me all the support. So through my common friends and through the friends of this Rotary Club. So we all decided that we'll go there and we'll talk to the Jirga people and we'll try to solve this matter out. So it was like an entire thing was planned on Facebook, and that's how I started trusting them. And but when I reached there, so this Ataur Rahman, he was the one who backstabbed me. He informed the agencies, and the agencies caught me, and then they were like, "No, we have all information on you that you are an Indian spy." So obviously, they will never trust an Indian. They will obviously trust the person of their own land. So that's how it all began.
Before I come to Rakshanda ji, because her role in this is so important, I wanted to just get Rajdeep in here. Because Rajdeep, you looked at the India-Pakistan relationship for so many decades now. In a way, Hamid's story sort of symbolizes the schizophrenic relationship between India and Pakistan, everything that is wrong with it, and sometimes everything that's all right.
Absolutely, Nidhi. And look at when we are discussing this. I don't know whether this date was deliberately chosen, but we are talking on 26/11, a date which will be imbibed in the memory of every Mumbaikar and Indian for what happened in the context of the terror attack. And here you have another Mumbaikar in Hamid Ansari, who was a victim, again, in a very different way. Again, an ordinary citizen, a seemingly faceless citizen who found himself in the midst of this terrible conflict that exists between India and Pakistan. And schizophrenic is absolutely right. Because while we may look at Pakistan today on 26/11 from the prism of terror, we must also look at it, I think, from the prism of people like Rakshanda, who've gone out of their way to try and ensure that an Indian citizen gets his full legal rights, to ensure that human rights are protected, and eventually he's able to come back to this country. And I think, therefore, Nidhi, it's important to look at this India-Pakistan relationship as a very complex, complicated one. We tend to look at it as black and white. And therefore, I think these books are important, because I think an entire generation which has been indoctrinated on just hatred and hostility on both sides of the border needs to recognize that for every Ajmal Kasam who comes across and commits the worst form of terror and deserves the punishment he gets, there are people like Rakshanda who go out of their way to try and ensure that an Indian citizen like Hamid Ansari is finally reunited with his family. Or indeed, from the Indian side, a Jatin Desai, who spent all his years trying to ensure that fishermen who are, struggling in the jails of each other's country only because they've strayed across the waters are also in some way given justice. So I think, in a way, Nidhi, the problem is that India-Pakistan is a relationship which defies description. And therefore, you will keep getting these entangled stories like that of Hamid Ansari. And I'm so glad that it's been told so that people recognize that these stories are, at the end of the day, of people who are caught in a conflict that they have nothing really to do with.
Absolutely. Rakshanda ji, if I could get you in here, and the role that you played in ensuring that Hamid was reunited with his family and back in his country here in India, how difficult was it for you as a Pakistani lawyer to fight for justice for him? He wasn't the first Indian national that you fought for, but what kind of a struggle was it for you?
Sorry, actually there is a communication problem. Is this for me?
We can hear you. Could you hear my question?
There's a voice problem.
Are you able to hear my question, ma'am?
Actually, I want you to repeat your question because your voice is, there is a break in your sentence.
Sure. I was just asking you that as a Pakistani lawyer, how difficult was it for you to be able to come to Hamid's defense? He's not the first Indian national that you have helped and defended in Pakistan, but given the circumstances in which this case happened, how difficult was it?
Thank you. I get your point. First of all, thank you, because So I just want to say, not my first case.
I think unfortunately we're having some trouble with Rakshanda ji's with
Yes,
audio.
sorry. I just
Let's
might be
try
because there's a signal problem. I
No.
just want to clarify one thing because Hamid my first case. Because when I start my practice, you can find in your media, in 99 at that time I helped Ashok Kumar. Ashok Kumar with 3 kids. And he was caught at Landi Kotan. And for that reason, I got Hamid case because the people were involved with me at that time. When in 2014, I returned to my own country because I was out of country for certain years. So the Rita Manchanda, she called me and she said, look, there is another case for you. And that case is Hamid Ansari. So because she knew at that time, I already helped Ashok Kumar in 99. And the case was the same. He was in prison. Unfortunately, Hamid period was longer, but Ashok Kumar was for 3 years. So at that time, I struggled for Ashok Kumar. And finally, Ashok Kumar was sent back to Delhi with 3 kids. So the another clarification is because when the Hamid case, there was another lady and she paid more price for Hamid. That the girl name is Zinat, and the Zinat Shahzadi have done a lot of work at that time. I picked that material, then I got material from Fozia Ansari, Hamid's mother, and then I was very convinced. The first I was convinced, then I sat with my own senior. So third credit goes to Qazi Muhammad Anwar because he was senior lawyer who was just negotiating with state authorities or with the senior
Unfortunately, I think we just lost that link, but at least we could hear quite a bit of what Rakshanda ji was saying there. In fact, Geeta, let me bring you here because we can see there was this sort of multi-pronged effort to help Hamid, and it's not easy. We know of other Indian nationals, Kulbhushan Jadhav being the other one, who when they are accused of spying in Pakistan, the chances almost seem so remote and so dim that they would actually be able to come back to India and be repatriated here. In Hamid's case, though, Geeta, just describe to us, the role, for instance, that Sushma Swaraj, the late foreign minister, played. She was very actively involved in his case. Tell us a bit more about how things played out from here, from the Indian government side.
Well, when it comes to India, Pakistan, Nidhi and Rajdeep, we've covered it and we know there's so many layers to any story that we tell. And in this case, in Hamid's case, every time I'd meet the mother, the parents who were fighting the case from India, there were so many snippets of information that she would tell me, but would say, please, this is off the record. We cannot write about it or we cannot talk about it. And that's where you get an idea that the other layer that is working and that does not really want issues to be put out or spelled out or put in print or be published are the reasons why there is success in certain cases. Does not mean, I keep saying this, there's a lot of romanticism in saying truth shall prevail. Doesn't always happen. Sarabjit Singh case is a case in point where not every Indian or Pakistani get repatriated in time. They suffered and they've suffered. With Hamid, the Ministry of External Affairs, Sushma Swaraj's role, because during the time when Salman Khurshid or the UPA government was in power, there was hardly any information about Hamid. The Pakistani establishment had not even accepted that he was on Pakistani soil. And that's where when Rakshan Danaz says that Zeenat Shahzadi played a very important role. If not for Zeenat Shahzadi, who herself was kidnapped and abducted and spent 2 years in captivity, if not for her, there would have been no news about Hamid Ansari in Pakistani custody. So a lot of the credit goes to Zeenat Shahzadi, a journalist, a brave journalist in Pakistan. The Ministry of External Affairs, Nidhi, played a very important role with Sushma Swaraj constantly seeking details and updates. Now, there in the book, you will find details of what we really never reported for so long as to how the Ministry of External Affairs worked with various, not just government agencies in Pakistan, but also the fact that a mission has to remain engaged with the civil society, the influencers, the ones who really make a difference and are in contact with politicians, who again make a difference with the establishment and the government. The mission was in touch with lawyers, Rakshan Danaz, Qazi Anwar Saab, surely, but they were also taking counsel and advice from various other lawyers as to how to go about things, what should be said, what shouldn't be said, because the biggest concern, Nidhi, in this case for the Indian mission was not whether which way the case was headed, because Rakshan Danaz and Qazi Anwar were really handling the case well. It was about the fact that Pakistan administration was hell-bent initially on proving that Hamid Ansari is a spy. And in ensuring that that does not happen, that's not the direction the case takes, the Ministry of External Affairs played a very important role. And that's where, you know, there's a clincher there in terms of the positives of how governments, civil society, journalists, brave journalists and civil society members of Pakistan who actually came, and in many cases you don't see people come out and talk or vouch for an Indian citizen if it's Pakistan. But in this case, you'd see that there are so many who came and spoke and vouched, also because of Zeenat Shahzadi. The moment Pakistan accepted that Hamid Ansari was in Pakistan under Pakistani custody, Zeenat Shahzadi went missing. And that's when the civil society over there also woke up to the fact that a Pakistani journalist has been picked up because of her work in bringing out the truth about Hamid Ansari. So there are so many layers to how a story really works when it comes to India-Pakistan. And it was fascinating, which is why when we knew that the sentencing was complete and we knew that this is the time frame when Hamid Ansari would be returning, is when I first approached and spoke about the idea of a book with Fawzia Ansari. She's not here, but she has a lot to talk about too, and you'll read all about that in the book. And I told her that this is a story that needs to be told, of not just what happened, but also what one shouldn't be doing. As a journalist, it's a responsibility also to say that, well, you cannot enter another country illegally. That's the period. That's that. You know, so there are a lot of lessons to be learned, and those lessons were learned very, very, very hard lessons learned by Hamid Ansari, but very well fought by the family and by Hamid Ansari in Pakistan to prove that he might have gone with good intentions at heart, and was being tried for something that he never intended to do, which is cause harm and break ties or cause any kind of damage to Indo-Pak relations, so to say.
Hamid, how did you, I mean, this might be a cliched question, but when somebody like yourself gets arrested on false charges, gets accused of being a spy in a hostile country, on a hostile environment, how did you get yourself through that every day, particularly those days in solitary? How do you see hope and get through each day?
Initially, I was losing hope because when I was caught, they clearly told me that we know that you are a spy, and the charges for a spy is like very high, and the punishment will be at least 35 years. And if we found that you have committed some crime also, then it can also increase to death penalty. So I had no support over there, and the ground support who posed as friends, Ataur Rahman and the mutual friends, even they backstabbed me. So I was completely helpless. And during the solitary confinement, obviously, I did not get to meet Rakshana Madam, Kazi Saab, or any other person. Neither did I get any consular access. I could not contact the embassy. There was no help. So at that moment, I thought that okay, fine, now I'm doomed. I cannot go back home. But there were people in the you can say in the Pakistan investigating team who from time and again they used to update me that okay, fine, your case is going towards in your favor. Things are getting cleared. Whatever you're saying is being justified, and we are finding evidences that what you are saying is true, and we are not finding anything that is going against you. So at one point I even thought that okay, fine, maybe I am losing hope, but it should not be the thing. Maybe truth will come out, and maybe I will get justice someday. And obviously, like with prayers and the faith on Almighty, that was the hope that I only had. And once I was shifted to the civil prisons after 3.5 years, so then I started contacting Rakshana Madam and the Counselor Access. I'm sorry, not the Counselor Access. Like my this Rakshana Madam and the lawyers, they started meeting me. So all these things started adding as a hope. So these small hopes, they started motivating me that okay, fine. Now initially I was not able to see the sun. I was underground, 20 feet below the ground level, and now since I am out, I'm in the civil prison, so I can actually see the sun. Initially I was not able to contact anyone. I was not given pen and paper to do anything. But now at least I have access to pen and paper. I have access to Rakshana Madam. I can contact her. I can explain her. I can discuss things with her. If I'm in need of something, then she was the one who lent a helping hand. So all these things added to the motivation that okay, fine, one by one things are coming in my favor. So one day I'll be going home, and once I was told that okay, fine, after three years of sentence I'll be released. So that was like okay, fine, now it's completely disclosed that okay, fine, now it's over, and after 3 years it will be going, I'll be going home. So these things have helped me a lot.
Did you write while were you able to write down your thoughts inside? Did you got access to, you said pen and paper much later, but
Yes, after like in the solitary confinement, I was not having any access to pen and paper for my own free will. But once I was shifted to the civil prisons in Peshawar and Mardan, so over there I had access to pen and paper.
you did write down your thoughts.
Yes, I started writing down my thoughts, and like if there are any such moments which needs to be told, so I made specific I especially noted down those points that okay, fine, this is something that needs to come out.
Rajdeep, just coming back to the bigger India-Pakistan question, though, and it's something you touched upon initially as well. When we look at the state of the India-Pakistan relationship today, we tend to look at Pakistan as, or at least the establishment does, as a monolith, that, Pakistan is enemy number one. And yet you do have brave Pakistanis, like the journalist Geeta was talking about, like Rakshanda ji, like Kazi Saab, all of them, Pakistani civil society. These were the people who spoke up for Hamid, who fought for him, who fought for his release. So in this sort of shrill, this sort of shrill environment that we are in today, where hyper nationalism is at play, do you think the story offers us a chance to take a step back and look at people from Pakistan perhaps differently from the way we look at the establishment?
Nidhi, you've touched a chord which has sort of stayed with me for decades now. Let me at a personal level put it this way. One of my roommates when I was studying at Oxford was a Pakistani. And he and I have maintained relationships through good times and bad. We ring each other up on our birthdays. We sort of ring each other. He rings me up on Diwali. I ring him up on Eid. And we've tried to maintain some kind of, he keeps sending me Peshawari chappals whenever he can, whenever he knows there's somebody coming from Lahore to Delhi. But, in a turbulent universe, to maintain personal relationships is one thing at a one-to-one level. But for the two civil societies to actually work together, you need a state that facilitates it. The problem, Nidhi, and I must say at one level, I'm not cynical, but I've become a little fatigued in our states. And I mentioned both states in a way. the Pakistani state and the Indian state seem to be trapped in a sense of permanent hostility. We can keep blaming each other. The Indians will say, look at Pakistan, they sort of sponsor terror, they allow state agencies to function as almost parallel agencies, the ISI nexus, all of that will be sort of reiterated time again, and much of it is true. Let's be very clear, let's not live in denial. The fact is that the Pakistani state has at one level been guilty of allowing these cross-border terror groups to flourish under their watch. And the Army Pakistan ISI nexus is there for all to see. On the other hand, as the Indian state is also now caught up in some form of hyper-nationalism, where you also believe that at no stage should you be seen to be reaching out to Pakistan in any meaningful manner. So if the two states are trapped in this sense of permanent hostility, what chance for civil society? What chance, let's say, for lawyers, groups from the two countries to talk to each other, to hold conferences where they could maybe discuss legal rights and human rights? What chance for journalists to, maybe talk to each other in an atmosphere free of rancor, without talking at each other, but being able to talk to each other? What possibilities for school children to be able to sort of maybe exchange notes with each other? And to my mind, that's tragic, because it is the civil societies of these two countries that offer hope, if there is any, for the future. It is they alone who can perhaps repair this broken relationship. And with time, I think that's become more and more difficult, because there is no institutional facilitator. Even the simple act of getting a visa, and Hamid writes about in his book, the difficulties he had initially in getting a visa, and all of us know the difficulties that you can often have in getting visas to travel to each other's countries. So I think, Nidhi, unless we are able to work out some kind of institutional setup which is able to function irrespective of the ups and downs in this turbulent relationship, it maintains a certain equilibrium, it'll be very difficult, because the terror groups have their own agenda, the army has its own agenda on the Pakistani side, and there are elements even in India who have who have their own vested interests now in keeping this going. So my biggest concern is that if we don't talk to each other, what will the next generation be like? Will the next generation be fed by the diet that we feed on News 24 TV, where every Pakistani, in a sense, is demonized as a terrorist, and they, in turn, seem to demonize every Indian today as anti-Muslim? That is my biggest worry, that what kind of... And you can't change geography. You can't change your neighbors. So, it is very worrying. And again, therefore, I come back to the importance of telling the human stories, because unless you humanize this relationship, we will continue to live in frozen turbulence, and unfortunately so.
Absolutely, well said, Rajdeep. In fact, Rakshanda ji, I just wanted you to come in on that. Do you agree? Do you share the concerns that Rajdeep does? And as a civil society activist and a lawyer, have you been able to, in the absence of institutionalized sort of mediation or a structure, been able to interact more freely with your Indian counterparts on human rights issues?
Yes, why I ask, I want to intervene here, because earlier there was some problem, because we are acknowledging one. So if we don't acknowledge judiciary in Pakistan, particularly in Peshawar High Court, so we got tremendous support from, at that time, from our Chief Justice, and later on the way Hamid case was dealt by Pakistan judiciary. So I'm feeling very proud, because I'm from the same bar from KP. So the way Hamid got support from some of the state institution, even where Hamid had time like other prisoners, I must admit, because Hamid was more in danger, because the background and his nationality. But on the other side, there were people, if there was a hard time on Hamid, and they said, look, aapke kaidi ke saath ye ho raha hai. So I always said, He's not my prisoner. He's not my caddy. I'm helping him. So, this is basically the main thing was, our colleague mentioned here, the issue between both the countries. Because at civil society level, at one-to-one level, we have very good relation whenever we get together. Even I want to confess one thing, because, this is not matter of the religion. Whenever we get together, people from India and Pakistan, they have more friendship as compared to people from Bangladesh, because we share a lot of things. For example, languages, taste of cloth, food, everything. So I think the issue was with Hamid, my calculation was, because any person who cross border, either Indian to Pakistan or Pakistani to Indian, they faced a similar issue. There is need to have a serious dialogue, and serious dialogue where the people from civil society and the people from the government, they sit together, because the civil society people in India, they are alien. Civil society people in Pakistan, at certain level, they are alien to their administration. So I think this is the time. We already saw pandemic, and we saw if you have hate, if you have a difference, so there is nothing if you are not alive. Or I think this is the time India, Pakistan can share a lot of good movement together and help each other in this pandemic situation. So I think I know Hamid case, and other people like Hamid in Pakistan or in India, they are still struggling for their release, but that could be possible with more communication from both sides. We always insist dialogue within our own countries, because we need to have a dialogue in our own countries, and then between both the sides. Because since last few years, we were receiving different news item from India, or you might be receiving from Pakistan, because the common people, there is a divide now among the common people, and I fear if this divide widened due to this neglect, so might be the next Hamid or next Imran won't get help, because when the hatred penetrate within the masses, so they won't. I'm not a person who just give up, but since we are receiving messages, and you might be, because you are already, I know when there was an incident in India, so Fozia Ansari always, she called me and she said, I'm very concerned about Hamid. And I always replied her, look, we are more concerned about Hamid because something happened in Kashmir or in any part of India. Qazi Saab, myself, and some other supporter of Hamid in Pakistan, we were just like on our toes. And we kept Hamid because there was a news Hamid was kept in a death cell. So people were very concerned, and we said, no, we had only the way we can keep him safe, because that was our way to protect Hamid in Peshawar prison at that time. Right. So although there was some support, people were supportive. People were available in Peshawar prison, because the Peshawar prison has history.
There's a very important message you give there about how when entire societies kind of turn against each other, the environment becomes so hostile that in future these cases become more difficult to actually get success of, like you did in Hamid's case. So Geeta, just to take final questions from everybody before we open this up to questions. As a reporter in today's politically charged environment on India-Pakistan, how have you found it to be able to humanize stories like you did in this particular book? I mean, there will be a bunch of people out there who will call you anti-national for even humanizing this story.
Well, I fear that could be that could happen, but this is a human interest story, Nidhi. We cannot take away the human factor from Hamid's story. And why is it so? Is because there's so many people involved in having Hamid home and safely home, so to say. And Rakshan Danas makes a very important point about how if hate penetrates into societies, we might not see future Hamids really return home. And that's a very important point she makes. Timing was of the real essence when it comes to Hamid's release. I remember Rajdeep Sardesai putting that question to Imran Khan when he said he did not know about the case, but yes, if he has served his term, he will get released. If atmosphere is vicious between two countries, that might not happen, because the prerogative to release anybody is that of the administration and the state of the time. So it is very important to note that not just timing, but also how people, governments view any story or any case is very important. And in that, when we're reporting and we talk about the human angle and how it is a human interest story, because it is not just about somebody who's trying to create problems between two countries, but maybe had his intentions were right, his means and methods might have been wrong, but he served his term for the wrongs that he did, and for what he was being charged was absolutely untrue, and that's the reason why we found success. But these are very few and far between when we see cases of such human interest stories and which have a positive and a happy ending. Hamid Ansari, certainly, Nidhi, is a lucky man, and that's why the story needs to be told, because how people really worked at getting him back. I'd just like to make a quick mention of Fawzia Ansari over here, because if not for this mother, you would not see Hamid Ansari sitting where he's sitting today, if not for Fawzia Ansari. And in that, when we speak about mothers like Fawzia Ansari, there are many mothers, Nidhi, who would really want their stories to be told, to be reached out, to be heard, but does not really happen. And where does that difference come? That difference comes when you see a woman who's aware of her rights. Fawzia Ansari was so aware of her rights that she actually talked back to one of the ministers of the time in UPA. She actually told Salman Khurshid, when Salman Khurshid was getting pestered by her, so she said, "Kya hum jang lad lein Hamid ke liye?" Fawzia Ansari said, "हाँ, अगर जरूरत पड़े तो जंग लड़ लीजिए, लेकिन मेरा बेटा innocent है, वापस लाइए." That confidence, that bravery, that act of bravery that you see from a woman who's questioning or talking back to the then external affairs minister, only comes when you're aware of your rights. Most of the cases that we talk about, that we've written about, are cases where people come from families where they're not aware of their rights. And that's where people like Rakshan Danas, Qazi Saab, who really played a very important role, legal counsels who play important role in getting anybody repatriated, really comes in. That's why it makes this becomes a human interest story. But human interest stories only can be told in a way, in a positive manner, and become a success story when people are aware of their rights. It's very important that one knows that. So Fawzia Ansari walked through the entire struggle knowing where she stood, that she was right, and she's going to fight it out no matter what. So absolute kudos to that woman, Professor Ansari.
Hamid, the last question to you before we take some questions that have come online for you and for the panel. How are you doing now? I mean, I also read that it's not been easy for you to sort of get back on your feet and get your life back together after this ordeal, but you're doing it bit by bit. So tell us about that, and what are your own feelings about the people of Pakistan today?
Okay, to start with, once I came back, so people had this impression, like it's a general impression everywhere you go, that a person who has been behind bars has to be a criminal. But no one wants to know what was the reason behind it. Was the person innocent, or was the person framed, or what is the reality behind it? So unfortunately, here we still have this kind of mindset, and people do not take me for the person that I am, for the capabilities that I have. They just have this thing that in their mind, that okay, fine, we have a person who has been behind bars. No matter that, even though I was jailed there only because I was an Indian, and the Pakistani authorities who were interrogating me, they clearly told me time and again that तुम्हारा कोई जुर्म नहीं है, लेकिन तुम्हारा जुर्म सिर्फ इतना है कि तुम एक इंडियन हो. So I don't think in India that should be a crime, or that should be taken as a crime for in any other land, that a nationality becomes a crime. So I am finding it difficult now to stand on my feet and to get stabilized. But yet, I would say that my experience with the Pakistanis, even though when I was in the solitary confinement, there were authority people who were trying to interrogate, and they were trying to just uh, get the maximum out of me, because they were under the assumption that okay, fine, I am a spy. They did not ask me whether I am a spy or not. They asked me what was my mission. They also got my forced signatures without my consent on fake documents. But but on the other side, there were also some officers who also told me that घबराने की जरूरत नहीं है, तुम्हारा बयान जो है बिल्कुल सही जा रहा है, जो बोल रहे हो वही बोलते रहो. So when I got support from such kind of people, even when I was in the civil prison, there were people who also tried to attack me. I was attacked in the prison, and there were people who also protected me. This was all inside the prison facility. So people in Pakistan are good. There were people who also chanted in India Zindabad. There were people who said that जब तुम इंडिया वापस जाओ तो हिंदुस्तान को हमारा सलाम बोलना. There were people who said that we are very big fans of Sachin Tendulkar, Virat Kohli, and Mona Singh, and like there were many. The list just keeps going on. The first thing that a Pakistani asked to an Indian, क्या तुम कभी सलमान खान, आमिर खान, अक्षय कुमार इनसे मिलो? The Bollywood industry flourishes over there. So the perception, like how they look at us, it's completely different what we think that they will think about us. They love us, they care about us. Obviously, good and bad is within every individual. So we cannot blame a complete society or a country that everyone is bad or everyone is good. It's all upon what you give, and then the same will be reciprocated.
Well, very nicely put there, Hamid. And I would urge people to actually read the book to know in much greater detail about what you went through, how all of this happened, your time in jail, and what happened when you were finally reunited with your family. There are quite a few questions that have come in for you and for Geeta and for everybody else. But there is an anonymous person whose question caught my eye first, Hamid. And this person has asked, ki ladki ka kya hua?
Okay, she got married, obviously.
I want to reply.
Yeah.
Zeenat Shahzadi, people can access her on Facebook and Twitter. She's happily married. कौन सी लड़की?
फिजा की बात कर रहे हैं.
That's a question.
The Swara one, the Zeenat Shahzadi.
Both are married.
फिजा की बात कर रहे हैं.
Both are married.
Both are happily married.
Avijit Dutt has asked a question. Do you not think that an independent civil society in Pakistan, without the overpowering military establishment, can have a better relationship with India? Rakshanda ji?
Could you repeat your question? Because I'm sitting here where our voice is not clear here.
There is a question that somebody has asked, that could an independent Pakistani civil society without the influence of the military establishment have a better relationship with India?
I think we, as a civil society, we have a good relation. And, I'm talking to this forum and I feel very independent. There are incidents, there are issues, but, somehow things we need to look into the context. So in Pakistan, there are other people in civil society like us. They are working in the field, and they are receiving both type of reaction. So I think uh, our both side establishment have their own work. They decide for themselves, but we are working according to our laws, and we help Hamid within our legal framework. For that reason, we didn't receive any reaction. Even we get support. Even at certain stage, my senior lawyer received support from the establishment as well. My meetings with Hamid were in the presence of our government representative, and we also had chance to talk each other without the presence of any government representative from both administration, like the political from the administration and our intelligence. So somehow when things come, one thing I want to mention, because why we kept Hamid case low profile in Pakistan. If India and Pakistan, we keep cases profile, and with low profile cases, you can help with people. When some media person were contacting me, so I talked to Fawzia ji. I said, look, Fawzia, you come in the media, but if you want to help Hamid, keep this case in our part very.
Right, we're just going to try and connect to Rakshanda ji in another minute or so. But let me go on to another question. For you,
Nidhi, can I just add just a quick addition? This actually officially would be Rakshanda Naz's maybe the first official conversation on the case. That's how low profile they kept the case. There are pulls and pushes, but this is Rakshanda Naz's first officially coming out on the case.
Pragya Narang has a question for you. Hamid wants to know that were any other prisoners, did they ever become a support system for you? And assuming that most would never have met Indian prisoners, and some might have also been hardcore criminals. So what were your fellow prisoners like?
Yeah, like Rakshanda madam has already said, I was with the condemned prisoners who were about to be, facing death charges. So they were hardcore criminals, and their mindset was, हम तो ऐसे भी मरने वाले हैं, अगर एक और murder कर दें तो भी मरेंगे. So at times there were people who started blaming me. There was one incident. There was this guard over there. He was a warden, and he was from Kashmir. And for some reason, he started blaming me for everything that is happening in Kashmir. And this ignited a fire sort of a thing that all the Pakistani prisoners over there, those who were kind of fanatic, they started attacking me. But at the same time, in the same death row, there were other prisoners who said that भाई ये बंदा खुद यहाँ पे फंसा हुआ, ये कैसे जिम्मेदार हो सकता है? So there were people of the Pakistani prisoners who protected me. The people from the Pakistani authorities, the jail authorities, they protected me. So you can say there were prisoners and authorities who were protective for me, but only their help was bound only to within the jail premise. Like they could not help beyond the like in the legalities or the case front.
Oh, interesting. Interesting stories from inside.
Hamid, this is also on the record. That person was removed from the position from that prison.
Yes.
Yes.
So
and that,
in your case, there are a lot of precedents. In Hamid's case, there are a lot of precedents that the same day when we file an application, because Qazi Saab was out of country. So I myself appear in the High Court, and we said, Hamid need protection. So the High Court issued this order. Within 1 hour, we need a protection plan for Hamid that would be from the prison. So I think such things should be, delivered from an state institution, because whatever is your nationality, whatever is your religion, the one thing must abide from both sides or in any country, the prisoner should be protected according to the law. So I think if we look into the Hamid case, Hamid's difficult, most difficult case. I dealt the Ashok Kumar case. I was not a trained lawyer at that time. Hardly I was in practice. It was Ashok Kumar case was in 99, and I start my practical life in 1993. But that case was very. But when Hamid case we started, that was not the same case like Ashok Kumar, because our external environment was also playing its role. At that time when we were dealing with Ashok Kumar case, Pakistan was totally different. Relations were totally different. But while we were dealing with the Hamid case, that was very fragile situation. Anything, any spark can convert into a big.
Okay, can I just add over
Absolutely.
here, Nidhi?
Yeah.
Rakshanda Naz, the way she sounds over here is how she sounds even in the book, you know, because when she would tell me what she was doing, this is how she was. So the unprecedented incidents that you will see, even in getting an officer removed, a guard removed, all of that, she'd just say, "Maine chadar odi, gaadi mein baithi aur chal padi." She actually did that. You know, in the winters of Peshawar, she'd just take out her shawl, get into the car, and just go to the prison to meet the prison officials, if at all there was any news of Hamid being attacked. So she actually, if you see her now and if you've heard her, you'll actually hear her when you're reading the chapters that relate to Rakshanda Naz.
We're very thankful that this story had a happy ending. There are other Indian prisoners who are in Pakistani jails, Pakistani prisoners here in Indian jails. And I guess all of us would, hope and pray that those who are innocent are at least repatriated home in the near future and have a happy ending, at least like you did, Hamid. So thank you very much, and congratulations to you, Hamid, and to Geeta for bringing this book out. Thank you very much, Rakshanda ji, for everything you've done for Hamid, and to you and your colleagues. Rajdeep, thank you for weighing in on this today. It was great talking to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. On behalf of Prabha Khaitan Foundation and Ehsaas Women of India, I would like to thank the guests, Mr. Rajdeep Sardesai, Ms. Rakshanda Naz, Ms. Nidhi Razdan, for a very, very interesting, fascinating session. I would like to specially congratulate authors Hamid Ansari and Geeta Mohan and wish them great success with the book. The session has been made special with the presence of our guests. I would like to thank all of you who are present here for your support to have made this endeavor a huge success. Thank you, everyone.